Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
That was a good one.
Holy hell. Good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Yes, it is. Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
Wow. You know, none of that will make the air, but I
made my ears.
I can't even.
Hilarious.
We just have this fun time here.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, my God, that brought tears in my eyes.
Me too.
We had a little interface thing, and it was literally like somebody was stepping on a seal. I mean, it was just crazy. Anyway.
It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
We'll have to put that in the raw cuts one day.
Very raw. Uber raw cuts.
Hey, Thank you, listeners.
Thank you, listeners. Thank you.
We had a great month. You guys are definitely spreading the word.
Yes.
We can only thank you for doing that. And you're clicking through the Amazon banner. Thank you very much for that.
Awesome.
You go to ampsandaxescast.com, you click through that banner, you buy your stuff. It's almost Christmas.
Right.
We're getting ready for the Black Friday.
Right.
And a couple companies now are protesting Black Friday. They're not even going to be open, even online.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because they said, nope, we're not playing into it.
Yeah.
They'll just run their sales another day and let you
do
it at your leisure.
They will be doubly slamming Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know how that game goes. Christ.
So thank you, though, for going to the site, clicking through the banner, checking out all the Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. They're following us. Make sure you follow the old East Amplification, too, on the Instagram.
Yes.
Because we're, going to get it to where we're reposting each other's stuff, so that way we kind of do that crossover thing.
Kind of a crossover reciprocation.
I got to figure it out. It's not difficult. It's there. I'm sure I'll get 800 emails that says, hey.
It's really easy, dude.
Dummy. And, of course, when you're there on our page, you got to check out our buddy up from up north.
Jason Seditas.
And he does the
Quick Lick.
That's right. And, man, he has turned it around.
Oh, man.
Whole new format.
They are just getting so good.
I mean, it's like, and then he sent us something we can't release, but it's. I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really,
and so it's a product demo thing, and I was just like, he was like, what do you think? And I haven't even answered him, but it's like, well, I couldn't even come up with that concept, so. Works.
It's awesome, and the Quick Lick now he puts the backing tracks in there, and then he plays over, so you get an example of how the lick works.
Yes.
Within the format of a song, or a key structure, a melody, something like that. And then he goes and he plays the backing track.
Yeah.
As well, which is just so damn cool.
We're going to have him back on with the old Skype thing or the FaceTime, get him on, because I just don't even grasp how that brain works, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like endless. Every time he delivers another one, I'm like, where does he dream this thing up? I mean, these aren't licks that are standard licks.
Not in any way, shape, or form.
No. And they're like, every now and then you hear it and you go, well, that's kind of weird sounding. And then he does it again and you go, that sounds pretty badass. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? At first, because he's got some very heavy jazz type, it's very eclectic. I mean, sometimes...
Eclectic is the best word.
Yeah, because you'll hear like that blues lick, and then he'll put some weird diminished thing in there, and you're like going, well, that just sounds, but that's cool. And then now he's got the backing tracks. It's like 100 times
super cool.
It just fits so much. Now it actually makes more sense.
Right now, even to my brain, it makes sense.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, with the backing track, it really gave it that. Oh, there we go.
That's how one would play that, or no, that's where one would play that. How I still don't get, but where? Yeah, now I get it.
Yes.
So it's cool.
Now,
Thank you, Jason.
And the last piece here. Always, please. We've been getting them, but we can't ask enough.
iTunes review?
Please. 5 stars, man.
That's
Push
right.
this thing right up to the top because I'm telling you, you get us up there high enough, we'll start getting calls from
more calls
from the artists,
right?
To where we can then really kind of pick and choose who we want to get. Because see, there's some guys that I know just don't know about it that would definitely want to come on this show.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I heard a little bit of an update, and I just want to send out, and I haven't discussed this with you, but I want to send out Tony MacAlpine. He's still fighting that whole thing, the whole cancer thing. And we were trying to line up an interview with him, but, he got sick. And he wants to come on the show. But, he's just got to... he's got a lot ahead of him, so
now
our thoughts are with him, man.
And there's another guy, and I don't know when this show is going to hit air, and so I apologize ahead of time if this is no longer an issue or if it's gone to a worse place. But Dr. No from Bad Brains, guitar player, is in the hospital fighting for his life. So we just want to send our best positive energy, and I hope everybody else can too.
Absolutely. And the thing is that probably a lot of guys listening or probably have day jobs, and you probably have insurance for the most part. A lot of these guys, man, they are their boss.
Right.
They are the corporation, and some of these guys, they don't have the kind of health insurance that you or I have that through a bigger corporation that can afford to hand that out to their employees. And you get something like cancer, and those bills go
astronomical in a minute.
It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy,
and so definitely check out their stuff.
Right.
And if there's any kind of fundraising things or anything, just throw a couple ducats, man. That's all it takes.
Just FYI, I know in the Annapolis area here, just south of Baltimore, they have an organization, AMFM, Annapolis Musicians for Musicians. And they do help. I don't know to what extent or what capabilities they have, but they do help local Annapolitan musicians when they need some help. So I think that's a great organization, and shout out to you guys.
Yes.
So maybe other areas have that, or maybe other musicians listening can start something.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? Because
there's a lot of organizations out there that you see these guys. We don't think about it. You think, oh, this guy's on tour, man. He's making tons of money. Not today.
Right.
Today is a different ball game. Everybody that's older than 30 that's listening, different world now.
Yeah.
You hear about these fly dates. The reason that they're doing fly dates, man, is because they got to just go out part-time to get these gigs.
Yeah, it's incredibly hard to
keep
stay
money
on the road.
Unless you own your own tour bus.
Yeah.
You're not taking your own equipment most of the time. It's that's where the Fractals and the Kempers and these guys are just putting their guitars in a bag and they're on the plane. And that's why these rigs are getting the kind of popularity. And God bless these companies that are making these things, because you've heard us talk about that being plugged straight in and moving air and stuff like that. But when you're in a band and you're trying to make that living and you got to do all these fly dates and you can't, you can't stick that Marshall stack in the overhead.
Sometimes you can't have the ultimate rig with you all the time, and
you really can't rely on the promoter.
No, you can have backline in your writer, but you're at the mercy when you show up, and and hopefully 9 times out of 10 it's great.
Yep.
But even the guys that carry like the Fractal or something, maybe they do get a good rig and they don't have to use all that
just as a backup or something.
Yeah, but I mean, that 10th time you walk in and the thing is breaking the minute you plug into it. It's you got to have Plan B.
Exactly.
So
now
everything has its place.
This is what this is what I'll give you as my observation. I think Kemper is making a tremendous run at this. And the reason I say it is because they make a 600-watt version of either their head box or their rack mount version. And it's no difference in size. Has a couple more pounds to it because there's there's an amplifier in there.
Right.
But the Fractals don't come in that version. You have to buy, their recommendation is one of those Matrix power amps.
Another discrete power amp. So another piece of gear.
Another piece of gear.
Right.
So you go from a 2U unit to a 3U unit where the Kemper just stays at the same size if it's rack mount or if it's that lunchbox type thing that they have. So
interesting.
That's and the cost difference, the cost difference is quite considerable. They're not like running neck and neck for price wise. The Fractal is more expensive, and their floorboard is more expensive.
Yeah, because they do just an effects board, I think.
Well, they have So the way that Axe Effects is, they have the Fractal Audio Axe Effects 2. That's the complete unit. That's got everything. They have a floorboard for that, a controller. That thing's $700.
Just the controller.
Just the controller
for
the rack. Okay. And now they have a new pedal board that is a I don't know how many pedals. It's like 300.
Yeah, it's just effects though.
Yes,
yeah.
And our buddy Pete Thorne has a lot of demos on YouTube, on his YouTube channel. I recommend go check them out. It's a very elaborate piece of gear. That thing's over $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's got like pretty much every pedal known to man. And as they produce more, the firmware upgrades will actually add those in. See, that's the neat thing about those two companies is that, there'll be a new model, and it may be down the road, but as you own this very expensive piece of gear, and you get all these the firmware upgrades free.
Right.
Yeah.
And those kind of pieces of gear, that's they're a blessing because you got 1,300 different effects in one box. But the curse is if the box goes down, you just lost all your
that's the only downside is that it's a very
if I use 6 different effects and I have 6 different pedals, I'm okay with carrying that, and if one goes down, I got 5 different pedals.
You just unplug it.
You just unplug one and go.
So when it comes to this stuff, when you get into that conversation of reliability and stuff, if the juice in the place that you're using, if you're not using a good conditioner of some sort and something spikes down, this is just like a computer, so you could kill it very fast with that type of thing. They are built pretty tough.
I would hope there's enough safeguards in there,
They're built pretty tough, but like you said, if it goes down, you're done. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
These tube amps, and you can get these little guys. You've written about this, like the Tiny Terrors and stuff like that.
Sure.
Use those things, and it's just so straightforward. It's simple electronics, and it's not like you got to worry about a power surge of any kind that heavy, knocking the thing out completely. It's all pros and cons, right?
For sure. For sure.
So we don't knock it though.
Like I said, there's a place for everything.
Yes,
there's a place for everything.
And if you're a working dude and that's all you can take on your shoulder and you're out there, well, hey, that's what you got to do, man. Joel Holkstra, he's still doing his thing with the Fractal and who was the other guy that we talked to? I can't remember who it was. It was saying they were using that thing constantly. I forget, but I just heard.
We've talked to a few, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's their main. Oh, Chris Broderick. From Act of Defiance.
There you go.
Yeah, he's a big Fractal user.
Yeah,
and Jason just picked up the Kemper, and
right.
East Digital.
East Digital, that's right.
Now we have a email from one of our listeners.
Okay.
His name is Tom Sullivan.
Hi, Tom.
How you doing, Tom? And he writes in here, and I won't get into the whole thing, but I'll just I'll do it. He said that he's kind of been away for a little bit.
Okay.
And he was looking for a cabinet. And he said that he's noticed outside of the normal, the vintage guys like Marshall, Fender, orange, etc. He's noticing that a lot of cabinets now are labeling their cabinets as ported.
Okay.
And he's wondering why. And he's like, is this something that they've discovered through science, that it's a better thing to have? Or is this just because they're doing something different? And he wants to know your opinion.
Better, okay, in my humble opinion, better to start out is a very relative term. We just have to agree on that. There's not, what's better for somebody is not necessarily better for everybody. It all depends what you want and what you expect.
Yeah.
The ported cabinets, I really haven't, personally, I haven't played any of them. I don't do any ported cabinets myself.
No.
Everything that I do is semi-open back.
Yeah.
Even the 4x12 size thing, the 210, 212, the bottom is closed and the top is semi-open.
Yes.
Because I personally like the airiness that you get, the sound that kind of wraps around the amp as opposed to comes out of the front of the amp. It's much less.
You don't get those standing waves inside the cabinet that can occur when they're closed.
Well, that's true, and closed cabinets, completely closed cabinets, are a lot more critical when it comes to that, and
they're a little more focused.
They are more focused, and I don't want to use the word critical. I'll just say different because they resonate differently. A closed back cabinet has much more of a distinct, specific frequency that it resonates at.
Yeah.
Whereas an open back, you don't get that resonance.
No, you don't.
I mean, you get cabinet vibration, of course, and that's why I like working with pine cabinets because I think they resonate the best. They become part of the note as opposed to just a cabinet where the sound comes out of. I've experimented with a lot of things, and there are some things that we've gotten close with, but for me, I like pine when I can work with it. And it's not the best work. It's not the best. It's not the easiest wood to work with for cabinet makers because it's a very live wood. They can't just cut a stack of it and leave it there for 6 months.
Because you'll come back and you'll be like, no, these dovetails fit each other.
It just doesn't work
because it swells or it shrinks and
it twists. Too.
Once
you cut it, you got to use it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, back to the ported thing. When I first started noticing it, honestly, I think it was the company Port City.
Port City is a big one.
Yeah, that I first started noticing those cabinets in. Now
they kind of give you the 212 sounding like a 412. They need to stop that.
I like my 212 to sound big, but doesn't necessarily need to sound like a 412. I don't think so.
I've done so many comparisons with things like that that I go, nope.
Mm-hmm.
There's a look, like you said, there's a distinct thing that happens in a 412 cabinet.
Yeah.
That's why they're all like 30 inches by 30 inches. Some are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller.
Right.
Some are deeper, some are small. But they all have that kind of same volume inside of them.
Yeah.
And they make that one kind of thing.
Some of them make this ultimate woody knock that I really, really love. But
or the woof that you get
or
when you're detuned and cranked to the max.
And some people don't like that,
Yep.
But the port is going to give you more bottom end per cabinet size.
And we worry about that one thing that we've talked about.
What, the artificial?
There you go.
Bottom end. That's the part that really bothers me. I mean, if you start having too much bottom end in a cabinet, you get some of these rigs get to the point like there was a company out there that was doing and I don't knock anybody, but there's a company out there that was doing a pretty much a subwoofer cabinet for guitar.
Oh, yeah.
With like a power amp in it and a crossover.
Well,
so
we can say it. I mean, it's okay.
I just don't remember who it is.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
There's two companies, ISP Technologies.
Right.
They make a DCAT 400 watt 115, and then on the other side is just a passive 212, and it's in a 412 configuration.
Oh, okay.
That's Buck Waller, the guy that used to own Rocktron.
I'm pretty sure the original one that I saw was just a subwoofer.
And that is Rivera. And that was Steve Lukather's sub whatever. I forget what they called it. It was part of the Knucklehead series.
Mm-hmm.
And that had a power amp on it.
See, personally, I think it's so much low end for a guitar. It's artificial. It doesn't belong there. You're out of your frequency spectrum. You know, you're pretty soon you don't need a bass player. You know,
no.
and that's not good. And even if you have a bass player, you're stepping all over his frequency range.
And here's the crazy part: run a 7-string or an 8-string, and I swear to God, you start hearing some weird ghost note. That's like a drone, and it's like you kind of start looking around the room, like going, "Who's
playing the wrong note?
Who's constantly playing the B?"
Right?
You know, but it's because there's so much going on in that cabinet and those lower frequencies. I think it's just spilling all this out.
They start messing with your eardrums too. You know, they really start messing with your eardrums.
Exactly.
So I maybe some porting to some degree is fine. I mean, some older cabinets,
Thiel's, the Thiel,
Thiel Small was, that was another iteration of that way back. Mesa first started using those cabinets way back in the day.
That was all science behind that. Yeah, and supposedly, it worked, but it wasn't. You didn't see a ton of them.
Right. No, and
they were very expensive.
There were some other vintage cabinets. As a matter of fact, even Dwayne Allman had an early form of port in his cabinet. They just had a round hole drilled in the baffle board,
just random.
Yeah, just random. There's no no tube or anything associated with it, like no tuning or anything. It's just kind of to get a little bit of airiness or less focus and less thud out of the cabinet. And it actually can make the cabinet a bit louder because with a sealed cabinet, you're really inhibiting the throw of the speaker.
Yeah. Well, remember guys used to take the screws out of the back of Marshalls, loosen them up.
Then they just vibrate like shit.
Yeah. But, to kind of get it to let that air kind of get out. But like you said, they vibrate like piss.
I don't know about that. They would vibrate like hell. But, they used to, just to get some of the tightness out of the cabinet.
Yeah.
So, that's where a port to a certain degree can help a closed back cabinet. But when you start to tuning them to get a more artificial bottom end, not a huge fan. If you have a really small cabinet and you need it to sound a little bit bigger, that's probably where you're going to get the most benefit from it. But starting to build big cabinets with large power and like massive tuned porting and stuff,
it's a little weird.
Just stick with playing a guitar cabinet, in my opinion.
And to let Tom know, I've had the 412s closed, sealed up. I've had 212s closed, sealed up, Marshall-esque type things. And then I got the Buddha that you gave me, and that's a 212 open back, or semi-open.
Right.
And I tell you what, here's the crazy part about it, because I do that metal stuff, and I'll ride a low E, I'll punch that thing just to get those speakers to make it, that like they're just starting to come apart, that it almost sounds like it, they're really pushing the cones. I thought, no way in the world am I ever going to be able to do that with this cabinet. Yeah, well, it made a liar out of me. and it's kind of neat because when you have it up kind of near the wall and you get a lot of that sound shooting out the back.
Right.
It has more thud than those cabinets. I get more of that like punch because those cabinets are so focused. You really got to crank them to no end.
It takes a lot more power to get the punch out of them because the excursion of the speaker is being held back.
Yeah, it's being pushed both ways.
Well, it's
pushing it
being
outward
inhibited.
And then going backwards, it can't.
Right,
the cabinet's full of air.
Right, exactly. So it can't breathe.
Yeah.
I like cabinets that breathe, and if a little bit of a porting is going to do that, that's okay. I haven't had to do it because I like semi-open cabinets, but you can go crazy with that stuff, and that's where I would have to draw the line. It's like I don't want my guitar to step on the bass frequencies.
So Tom, we suggest you just go to the music store and plug into everything and see what you like. Because let me tell you, an orange cabinet from a high watt cabinet to a Marshall cabinet to a Mesa cabinet, they don't sound alike.
Yeah, they're all different.
They all have their own coloration. They can still have the same vintage 30s in them, and they're going to sound different.
Oh, for sure.
So, check all that out.
Construction's different.
Yeah.
Different wood, different baffle, different
Exactly.
size, different everything. It all makes a big difference.
So definitely just go and play the gamut, and the one you like, that's the one. And if it's 412s, get a buddy.
There you go.
Because you're going to need one.
There you go. Hope that helped a little bit. Probably not, but
Yeah, we try.
We try.
So we have a reoccurring guest, man. Our first guest ever, besides yourself, because you were the first guest. But
I was the first two guests.
You were, because I just wasn't so intrigued by the story. I was like, we got to tell everybody. But the guy that we got on the phone long ago, over 100 episodes ago,
yes,
almost 2 years ago,
yes,
our good buddy out of California, an exceptional builder of guitars, Mr. Jason Schroeder. I can't say it.
Let me say it for you. What you said.
I had too much coffee.
Yes, Jason Schroeder, our first real guest.
Yes.
Because I'm not real.
High-end, crazy high-end guitars. He's going to come on and talk about some stuff.
Cool.
He's got some new parts that everybody's going to enjoy.
I love parts.
And you're really going to love this when you see these pictures, man.
Awesome.
This is awesome stuff.
Awesome.
So you want to bring him in?
I will. I
like how you do it.
Okay. Well, we're gonna take a break, and we will be back momentarily with Mr. Jason Schroeder.
Hey guys, this is Anna Santina, and you're listening to Amps and Axes.
And we are back with our guest of the week, our reoccurring guest, Mr. Jason Schroeder. Jason, thanks for being on again.
Thank you. I'm like the Alec Baldwin of your show. I keep showing up.
That's okay, man. We have a few Alec Baldwins, and that's mighty fine.
Yeah.
You know what the good thing is? They actually agree to come back on. So
that's right.
So, thank you.
It's funny. I followed Jason on Instagram with our page.
That is funny.
And I tell everybody to follow Schroeder Guitars on Insta because he's posting up pictures of all the the cool guitars that he's building and all.
Cool.
The one thing, Jason, that I just always look at your stuff and I just go, how do you even do this? I mean, he'll run, you know how like they bind a fingerboard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, he'll run like a piece of, and I guess it's maple, just this little thin strip about, I don't know, an 1/8 inch in on the fingerboard, and make that thing contour all the way around and back up. I'm like, just that little subtle thing is like the coolest thing ever.
Nice.
And he just has these, your ideas just kind of like, you
just
go.
Very unique offerings.
It's like, why didn't somebody think of this before? You know?
They probably did. I'm probably stealing stuff, but
dude, I've never seen anything like.
Or they already
stuff.
thought of it before, and they went, nah, it's just too hard to do.
Like on his headstock, he runs these like two little, just little strips of maple or something, and they kind of come into the center, but it's not like standard binding.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does the kind of standard thing, and they'll use flame maple and stuff like that, but he does this other piece that I'm going, how do you even do that? Because there's no like it's a crazy template or something.
It's magic.
I know.
Well, I'm trying to make sure that I don't make too much money. It's very important to me that I still struggle, and that's just what I do. Always trying to come up with something new.
Cool.
And speaking of which, he's got some hardware here that we gotta look at.
Yeah.
Some prototype stuff.
Yeah, we'll.
Yeah, we're excited about the parts. We've got a bunch of new parts coming out. We have almost enough to call it a line of parts, but we're focusing on bridges. Yeah, so it's pretty fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you've been on. Any other than the parts? Any new developments you want to let people know about? Like you've got a standard line of guitars now, or something, or anything cool happening in that regard?
Well, we since we went back and kind of listened to the last podcast, and a lot had changed since then, which is good. I mean, we have cleaned up some of the, we came to some resolution on some of the outgoing PBG issues, which is great to have that kind of behind us, and that allowed us to do some really cool things. Like we ended up buying a CNC. I think last time we were back, everything was being done by hand. and it was just basically Elizabeth and I working. So at the moment, we bought a small kind of entry level CNC, which is great to be able to do some of the stuff we're doing now. And we have an employee who is a guy that went to Roberto Venn School of Lutherie and worked in Nashville for a long time, and happened to have married a girl from Reading, so he moved out here, and we've been in contact for years. And so now he's in the shop working, and so things are kind of falling into place. And then we got the parts division, and then we're focusing a little more on the production guitars. So
nice.
That is cool.
Yeah. Congratulations on moving everything forward, man. That's great.
Didn't you have a guy that was doing some CNC stuff for you that was like looking at jail time? Do I remember this story right?
We had a guy that he was doing some work for us on our bridges, doing some of the metal work, and then he was doing so much work for us that he brought it in house. Yeah, and so that was kind of, I think the story I was talking about is how I had to learn how to do CNC work.
Right.
Because there was not much of an option. We were in the middle of a run, and so anyway, that's a whole other story. Got thrown to the wolves a little bit there, and now it's just part of our daily routine. It's still, CNCing is a very strange thing. I don't think it makes me any faster of a builder, but it does make me more accurate, and I can implement ideas that I think of at 3 a.m. and go, there's no way I could have done that by hand. But with the CNC machine, it's like it has so much control. If I can draw it, and if I can think it, then I can draw it on a machine, then I can get it to the CNC machine, figure out how to hold it, which is very often the most difficult part. How do you hold the part, and then coming up with some fun design stuff. And it's been a reawakening for me. I mean, it's just so fun to be able to do some of the things that I've just normally would have been defeated by my own idea, and said, it's just too hard to do by hand accurately.
That's really interesting to hear, because I would have think it would be the other way around. It's like, well, there's no way you can get a machine to do this, but if it's going to take a lot of time, but we can do it by hand. But you're telling me exactly the opposite, and that's awesome.
Now here's the crazy part. So everybody kind of thinks that it's made by a machine. What has to happen afterwards is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, right? No, this in no way makes the guitar.
It's hours of whatever sanding or
it just sets you up.
Yeah.
To to better do the refinements, I guess.
Yeah. Here's the someone put it really, really well once. I was listening to an interview with John Monteleone, and what he said was, something to the effect that there's no glory in hogging off all the wood to get it down to really close to get it to where you can actually refine it. So that's what a CNC does. I still take every neck, and I have to take I have to get the tool marks out. You have to take it down. You have to refine it to the point where it's actually a guitar and not just roughed in from the machine. The other part about it is that since I built by hand for a couple of decades, everything I do on the CNC machine is as though my hands were doing it. So I draw my own neck shape. I draw my headstock shape. And it's funny because what I'll do is I'll actually put my old templates on a scanner, scan in the outline of it. Wow. I put it into my machine, trace my own hand-drawn stuff to put on the CNC machine. So it's not like, I look at a lot of designs out there. You could tell that guitar was drawn on a CNC machine.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Or on a CAD machine.
Yeah, AutoCAD. Yep.
Yeah. Mine is the complete opposite. So I'm just using it to do. I sound like I'm rationalizing, and maybe I am. but
well, it's like a duplicarver. A duplicarver,
really
basically, you take the body that you made by hand,
right,
and then you duplicate it,
right,
and technically, if you really think about it, right, can you even tell me a manufacturer that actually built it, quote unquote, by hand? They're either using pin routers, they're using some kind of template.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. They're not carving these things, like a violin maker.
Right.
It's a solid chunk of wood.
Even violin makers used a lot of automated tools even back in the day. Yeah. So
now they're using lasers to burn them, to cut those tops.
Yeah. The bottom line is I'm all about making consistent and replicating stuff that I really, really like that I've done in the past. And it's a really fun place to be.
Cool.
You know, there was a time where I was just kind of like, I don't know, you know, what I want to build. I loved building all different styles, and I feel like I'm refining my own portfolio. So I know what I want to put out to the world, as opposed to someone having to call me and say, this is what I want, for me to know what to build.
Mm.
I feel like I've got something to offer in terms of, you know, like our TL. I feel like, I mean, I gig with that thing. I absolutely love that guitar, believe in it. And I'm my own worst critic, and I love those guitars and think they sound fantastic in a live mix. They sound great recorded.
Cool.
So I believe in those. And I'm getting to that point where it's like, I want to build the ultimate Telly on that guitar. I want to build the ultimate Les Paul for my Radial Lanes. And that's another one that I gig live. So it's really fun to get to that point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and you're just, it's kind of past the point of experimenting and trying and seeing how something gets received. It's more, you know, you're matured, and you got to the point where, okay, I've done a lot of that, and I know what these things do, and I know how I feel they're going to be received, and I'm really confident in putting this out there. So yeah, that's huge.
And I'm okay with people not digging what I do. That's the other part, is that you can't be everything to everybody.
Right.
You know, if a guy wants a little more experimental way out there guitars, that's not me. But, you know, I want to build traditional instruments because that's the tones that I hear in my head. You know, like I just finished our Seville is our new Strat style. I built like 4 of them, I think. So it was designed for Neil Haywood from Fleetwood Mac. He wanted a Strat style guitar, kind of smaller bodied and a little more roundy, curvier shapes on the body. And so I just finished a silver one. It's up on our website right now. It's got the Paisley pickguard on it.
Oh, nice.
Real subtle Paisley on it. But, you know, first thing I do when I plug in, I'm not trying to play anything out there. I played Lenny, and I played Sultans of Swing, and I played, you know, Little Wing. And it's like, if it can't do those things, there's something wrong. That's what I'm going for, is those archetype tones that I hear in my head, that with playability that exceeds a vintage instrument, hopefully. Nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, good benchmarks, you know, to do that with. That is just so cool. Mick just pulled me up a picture of the guitar.
The Seville.
The Seville.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. Now,
cool.
I want to step back a little bit. You know, when you were talking about holding the piece down, that really becomes the issue.
In the CNC, yeah.
When you're dealing with CNCs, they have stepper motors that are insane. It'd tear your arm off. I mean, depending upon the machine. You know, his entry level, I guarantee you, is pretty heavy duty. Because when you're dealing with wood and you got, you know, a 1/2-inch router bit that's got 3 flumes on it, and you're going a 1/2 inch in the wood, and you're going around, that thing will snap a carbide bit in half if if it was a deeper, you know, if he makes a mistake on that
programming,
and that thing dove down in an inch and it started to plow through that wood, he'd be ducking for cover. Because, you know, it'll destroy a solid carbide bit. Those things will just break them. Because what are they, 3 horsepower stepper motors on that thing? It's got to be something insane.
And it's moving at 20,000 RPM. What you hope is that the wood will give up before the bit.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's also, I've actually, you know, just, you know, you instead of stepping down, it'll, you know, I'll program something. It's usually when it's late in the evening or something when I'm working and too tired to be thinking, and I end up going like the full depth of a route, and it'll actually pop a fuse on the inside of the, which is great.
You're hitting the power, you're hitting the capacity of that thing.
Yeah, it's just pulling too much current.
Yeah,
you know, which is cool.
But you know, when it does mess up, you know, he's like, well, I got junk.
But I
firewood.
think the point you were trying to make is that the one thing that can't give up is the method of holding
exactly
the wood.
Right.
You know, that has to be stronger than everything else that's happening.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's all. It's tough, you know. But you end up with the little tricks and a lot of double stick tape. I do have some vacuum fixtures that I ended up with from Gene, but I haven't implemented those yet. So I mean, I just have other ways of doing stuff.
Yeah.
You know how it is. You get into a routine, and
Sure.
I have my ways of doing stuff. Yeah, it's interesting. That's a really interesting thing. If you look at processes, if you can tell when you look at Paul Reed Smith's factory, for example, you can see remnants of how he used to build when he was in his shop on, that little tiny shop that when he was first building.
Yeah.
West Street shop. You can see little tiny remnants of the ways, the order of operations and that kind of stuff, even when things get scaled up. And that's exactly how it is with me. And, I'm obviously not even close to that, but in terms of, that's what the machinery is doing. It's basically, if I could run a router perfectly straight with my arms, I would, but I can't, so that's what the CNC is doing.
Yeah, I mean, like I've had a tour of that factory prior to them where they are now. Actually, the smaller one where they are at this current location, they had a smaller one
before they built the building.
And you would see them. They take and they bandsaw the body, they bandsaw the top, and then you see the reference pins go in, and it was like, why are they doing that? But obviously that was something that carried over from when he was hand building them. They would use reference pins, so then they could, carve this thing out and glue it up faster and all that stuff, and it never shifted on them,
Exactly, especially when you have somebody else who maybe is a less skilled employee doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
You need that, that's probably by design.
Because it'd be like, well, our flame maple top is gone. Because you didn't set it on there right.
Center line.
The center line's off, and So it's a cool process, and so many times it gets dismissed as, well, now it's a robot building your guitars, and it's like, no, it's not. You can really make a crappy guitar. If you choose, Jason, you could just not do all the finish work and show everybody, here's your robot guitar. You won't want to play it.
No matter what, making a guitar is a pain in the butt. No matter how you do it doesn't matter. And like you say, you're 10% of the way done when the woodwork is, roughed in. You're not even close to. It's not a guitar yet.
That's what you ought to do. See, if you go to one of these guitar shows or whatever, you ought to build one that you don't even touch. Right? You just let the CNC cut it out and just string it up, do all the stuff to it.
Yeah.
And then just put it out and go, come on, check it out, man. It's your robot guitar. You got this option, or you got what I've done.
Exactly.
Well, it's all about setup. It's all about, then it's a game of, tens of thousands of inches when you go to set. And it's amazing to me, this is probably just too tangential, but when it comes down to it, it's amazing to me, even when you string up a guitar for the first time with a rough setup or the rough cut nut, and the bridge is kind of eyeballed into place in terms of how the saddle should sit and everything, and it'll play mostly in tune, but just even the difference of how it sounds once you get it completely dialed in, it's a different instrument. So I usually won't even play them. I usually don't even want to strum it. I don't even want to plug it in. I'll plug it in to make sure that the switching works and everything, just to make sure I don't have a short or something. But I don't sit down and actually noodle on the guitar until I've absolutely set it up and intonated it. Typically, it doesn't sound the same.
Right.
It's a different guitar.
You might get prematurely discouraged.
Definitely.
He's reaching for the bandsaw.
Right.
That's it. I'm going to cut this one.
Sounds like
but just even seating the strings in a nut, and all those little things are what makes it. But.
So
that's cool.
So these parts, I got to ask one question.
Parts,
and we're going to post these pictures on our website. I got permission from your wife, but so
that's good enough for me.
I was going to say, I know that's the gospel. So this one picture, it's a telly bridge, and it's dark. Most of these are not plated yet. So when you see it, it's just raw aluminum.
Okay.
But there's one that's dark. Is that made out of wood?
It's rosewood, yeah.
Get out of town.
Wow.
So your telly bridge is made out of rosewood.
Well, that's it's one of them. We're doing aluminum versions, and we're doing a half bridge, half telly bridge for if you want to use a humbucker or P90 in the bridge, or if you just want to do a flat mount bridge. But I'm building this. I don't know if you've seen it's a spruce top guitar that's got like violin overhang on the sides. It's kind of built like my thought process was I like having an inspiration or kind of a standpoint for a guitar that I'm doing. So mine was like, if Ken Parker, who's building these beautiful archtops now, if he was going to build a Telly style guitar, what would it look like with kind of his styling? So
you're
I built
talking
this body.
Ken Parker from Parker Guitars from back in the day.
Yeah, but he's doing these archtops now.
Yeah. He doesn't own the
incredible.
company anymore. Washburn bought them, right?
Yeah. So if you look on his Ken Parker archtops, they're incredible, beautiful. They've got this violin overhang though on these archtop guitars. They're just some of the most gorgeous guitars I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
And so I did that on a Telly style. So it's flat top and back, but it's a spruce top with double sound holes. And I really wanted to have a piezo in this guitar. So I was like, if I want this to primarily be, an acoustic instrument that I can also play magnetic pickups on, it makes a lot of sense to do a wood bridge. So it's almost done. I just buffed it out. It's sitting on the bench waiting for the neck to be refined and bolted on. I'm going to start putting it together, but it's going to be an experiment on how does it sound as an acoustic bridge, because if I want to get more acoustic tone, spruce top, it's mostly hollow, and a rosewood bridge is going to hopefully get me there.
Wow.
Nice. So you said magnetically, steel strings on there as opposed to bronze? Or do you...
Yeah, I'm using standard. At the moment, I'm planning on using electric strings with the piezo, with the Telly barrel piezos, the Ghost saddles.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. Those are going to go into this rosewood bridge. And I'm just going to test it out, see how it sounds. In the meantime, it looks amazing. I've actually made back in the day, when I was going through, I was looking at a lot of Benedetto stuff and studying his work and looking at how to apply some of those things to electric guitars, which is where a lot of my aesthetic comes from, is like the archtop world. But I actually made a rosewood bridge, a wraparound bridge, and it actually sounded pretty terrible as a 2-post wraparound bridge with the one I made. You need metal to transfer to get those really traditional rock tones. But for a piezo, it's kind of a different animal, and I'm thinking that if it's, primarily going to be like wood and jazzy tones are going to sound great.
Yeah.
So that's my working hypothesis.
That's cool. And I don't know why I asked about bronze strings. We went into the acoustic guitar thing, and I'm thinking acoustic guitar, and then...
No, I'm probably going to try acoustic strings on it, too, and just see how it lands. It's kind of an experiment for me.
Cool.
Now, the cool part about Jason's stuff is it has that little thing at the bottom there. It has this little signature, little kind of point that it kind of wraps around. It's a little more aesthetic than just squared off.
Right. It's almost like it's almost like the open book headstock kind of thing,
reversed,
but reversed.
Yes.
and it's just reminiscent. It doesn't look like it, but it's reminiscent of.
And all of his bridges have that. So if you get the wraparound, it has that look to it.
Yeah, I saw that. Right. Yeah,
yes.
it's so cool.
And of course,
very recognizable.
Of course, and I had a set. I don't any longer have that guitar any longer. I don't have that guitar anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes I need to. Yeah. Anyway,
I knew what meant you said.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so
I had a Star Wars set right now. What's going on?
Exactly.
I had a set of your locking studs, which I will say this, and even if they pay us, I'll still say it. To have your studs are so much better because everything's adjustable from the top. You don't need that funky wrench that the other guys make. And everything is from the top. The adjustment and the lock.
Nice.
Yes. And let me tell you, it's a hunk of metal. So you got some really good transfer there. I know we're probably going to get some scientists to go, there's nothing that's going to be, whatever.
Right.
Okay, I've heard enough. But, it really locks it in, and you're not relying on string pressure alone to keep that, against those studs. It is actually clamped. And,
right.
And they're deep. He actually had to... he did me a favor, and because I didn't want to drill any holes in the guitar, because I would have had to go in further in the guitar.
Right, deeper, yeah.
Yeah, so he just he shaved them off for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then this was when you were trying out a new plater. The plating had chipped off. I just called him up. I said, something happened. And he said, send them back. So,
Oh, absolutely.
No, you
Platers
didn't.
are
No,
big
I'm
in
sorry.
my
You
existence.
didn't even.
We have a great plater now.
Yeah, you didn't even say send them back. You said you'll have them in like 3 days, and sure enough, they came in the mail. And because
Nice.
he said they were trying, but that was years ago.
What
So-
customer service, you know?
Oh yeah.
Well, we went through. I think we've been through 6 or 7 platers. And I
It's a
think
dying
tough,
art, man.
especially when you're a small guy. I mean, and hopefully as our numbers grow, we will get better. You know how it is. If you're small potatoes, when you're competing with Gibson order, Fender order, sometimes I think they're even possibly a couple places we're even outsourcing their work. Who knows? But we found a fantastic plater, and we've been so happy. Everything's been so much more consistent.
Very cool.
And it's really nice. That's just because you can do all this work. It's just like finish work,
Right,
you do all this
right.
hard work on a guitar or on bridges. You have a whole run of bridges. You get them back, and it's like, oh, we had to replate them, and they're mushy, or so they end up throwing those away.
Yeah.
And all that work is just down the tubes.
And money.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
and money.
And so you have a $50 part with a $3,
Yeah,
it
exactly.
costs you $50, $3 in plating that screwed everything up.
Right.
It's really frustrating.
Now let me ask you: the stop tail is a new thing, right? In your
Yes.
parts department.
Well, the stop tail we had for a little while, but we now have the accompanying bridge, which incorporates all of the functionality of our wraparound.
Okay.
So it uses the same saddles, same screws, same E-clip, and it also has the same. We want to be kind of a equal opportunity supplier for 10 or 12 inch are the most common radiuses for guitars. So we do ours, and we definitely recommend that you notch your saddles in order to get the best tone. Like I was just talking about with setup.
Sure.
If you play unnotched versus notched saddles, it's an incredible difference when you notch the saddles. So we sell ours in 11-inch radius. So if you had to just notch them, it would work with a 10 or 12 just fine. But if you really want to refine it, if you have a 10-inch radius, you take a little more off the outside saddles when you're notching them.
Yep.
And so any decent repair guy worth the salt can easily do that and measure.
Right.
And just
Get the
makes it
radius
really
correct.
easy
Yep.
to use that. So it's the same exact. So and even the top of a Tune-O-Matic is usually flat. We've refined that just a little bit, so it actually has a radius on the top. It's a really beautiful part. So
That's cool.
That's new. So that and selling it, we're selling that with or without actually the stop bar.
tail.
Now, do you have a locking system for that too?
It's coming. It's in the works. For now, we want to make it retrofit.
Sure.
That's really important to us with all of our parts. We want to be able, like we sell so many of our bridges, for example, to PRS guys who bought like the import line, and they want to be able to intonate their guitar. They want to use different sets of strings or use alternate tunings, whatever. So we sell a ton of those to the PRS SE guys, and even the customs, whatever, or McCarty's. And so same thing, we want to be able to sell these to the Les Paul guys as either just to replace the bridge on a thumb wheel setup, or sell them as so we're working on a couple of different styles of ways to lock them down.
Now something that I'll make a recommendation, because I like to do what they call the top wrap, where I come out of the stop tail down and then come above. Can you cut those cool little lines that you cut in your bridges?
Yeah, we've thought about that too, and that'll be totally, a matter of we just need to get to it.
That's cool.
In the meantime, it's it is kind of nice because we have the locking studs on there, so you can control it and you can raise and lower them. So, but if you do want to rail it for whatever reason, you want to put it all the way down and have them over the top.
Yeah,
we can definitely do that. That's something that's coming.
That's
it's so easy.
Beautiful. That's when I'll be. When you get that done, just send me an email and I will be buying that from you. And is that that's like lightweight aircraft aluminum, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's just the. We've tried a bunch of different kinds. We've tried steel. We've tried brass, and for whatever reason, to my ears as a player, the lightweight aluminum sounds fantastic.
Well, it's strong, but it's light, and it's not cast.
It's not cast,
machine,
and it doesn't have the plink and the clinkiness that some of the bridges that I play, have played in the past. The Tunamatics I've played. Someone asked me, so what's special about your bridge? And what are you hearing? And it's like, it's what I don't hear. That's the most amazing thing. Is it's so smooth.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have the extra remnants that you don't even think about when you strum especially if you plug in or don't plug in. If you just sit on with a Les Paul in your lap and there's a lot of errant tones that you hear. You probably don't even think about it because it's all kind of part of that tone. And when they go away, it's kind of like, oh man, to me that sounds better. And that's just, to me as a builder and as a player, it's more pleasing to me when those are not there.
Oh, I will be buying these.
I mean, true. It's always cool when you go into a store and you play a bunch of different Les Pauls, and it not from the same production run, of course, but just different ones that hang in there, and you pick up one, and you go, this one just sounds better. Now, we all know a lot of it is the wood and things like that. But I think it's
not
all
according to some.
Yeah, I know, we know that. It's all of these things put together. It's everything affects it, and when you get a bridge that enables the guitar to quote unquote sound better, it's another piece of the puzzle that allows that guitar, when you pick it up, to go, oh yeah, I like this one.
Well, here's what I'll tell you. So when I had the guitar that I used his studs on was my PRS. It was a PRS standard. Okay. And I had the original, compensated one-piece aircraft aluminum bridge that came stock with it. I then obtained one of his wraparounds that had the adjustable saddles, right?
Okay.
But that's made out of cast. That's not made out of one-piece aircraft aluminum. Okay? Probably gets it from Schaller or someplace like that. There was such a difference. I went back to the compensated bridge.
Oh, really?
Because it was like you said, Jason, I could hear that plinkiness thing going on. And I thought it was the brass saddles, but it was, that bridge weighed more, and it just sounded thinner. It didn't have that kind of thing going on, even with his studs on it.
I think it is a sound. It's like everything. Everybody's got an opinion.
Oh boy, don't we know that?
It's just, to me, it's not the sound that I like. And I talked to some old timers that were in the business for a long time, and they said, you want to use cast zinc for your, and I experimented. I didn't ever make them I never cast anything, but I tried out just to hear the tone of, this is a cast zinc bridge versus aluminum versus brass. And I thought the cast zinc sounded funky. I mean, it just wasn't my thing. And I think that maybe it is, it was heavy. It was, beside the fact that casting is just a whole other process that I don't want to even deal with. But
you got to pay for molds, and
isn't that
they
what
don't last forever.
Isn't that what the VOS Gibson stuff comes with? Aren't they?
I'm not sure.
Cast zinc, because that was what they were using back then, right? Definitely wasn't aircraft aluminum. That wasn't even invented then.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure it was invented, but it wasn't being distributed in blocks of, 50-pound blocks that you could put on your CNC, because it didn't exist in --
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and that's why I'm excited too about doing the aluminum, the tele bridge too. To have because I don't know of anybody else who's doing an aluminum tele bridge. So it's the same concept. I'm thinking that it's going to, I've built them before, like Josh Smith. Josh Smith is a fantastic musician. He played with Raphael Sadiq. He kind of came up with, just an amazing blues player. If you haven't heard of him, he plays the Baked Potato in LA, goes to Europe, and he's played with Stevie Wonder at the Grammys, I think. Wow. He's just he's a all around great session guy in LA. But I built him a guitar, and he put a half bridge that I made out of aluminum on his with the straight back, and it's just, again, it's that very transparent musical quality bridge. And so it's exciting because I don't know of anybody else on the market who's doing that.
That's very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at the tele bridge now.
Yeah.
And it's one nice piece of machine.
The thing I like about the tele bridge is see the thickness at the back where the string
It's comfortable. It's not going to cut you up like a.
Yeah, it's not just a folded piece of metal.
Yeah, so that that's a heavier block there. It's got to add some kind of transfer
with a recognizable shape and
yeah.
These
are direct replacements, right?
Yeah,
so
if
if you
same
want
screw patterns.
See, there you go.
Yeah, except for some, you have to add the extra 2 screws at the front of the
correct
the bridge, and I mean that's a big thing. Although some guys, most luthiers know about this, but some guys that play tellies, that haven't had the experience with them for years and years, don't know about those screws. Those are 2 important screws.
Yeah, and Callahan is I think the first bridge that I remember seeing with those on the front end of the bridge, and it makes so much sense when you have a thin piece of metal, and it's just cantilevering sometimes, from the back end, that you can really improve your tone by bolting down the front of it. So
plus, it's holding the pickup,
right, and it does alleviate some pickup feedback.
No, does it? Because it's
get
more
weird
solid.
Vibrations.
Yeah, you don't get the vibration.
Yeah, those are 2 important screws.
Yeah,
that's cool. The PRS stuff, I meant to ask you about that. The the CEs and stuff. Is that like the same thing you find on a US Strat and a Mexi Strat? Are the spacings different from CE and from made in US?
Sort of like Epiphone, they're using metric parts.
Right.
You mean so they're metric studs. In terms of, you're talking about the SE line, right?
Yes.
Yeah. See, you're old school. I know you're old school because CEs were the original bolt-ons.
That's right. Yeah.
Classic electric.
Yes. I always wanted one of those, actually. I never got one.
They actually got great ratings back in the day.
Yeah,
they were really well-made instruments.
Yeah.
So the SE line is metric, and we sell metric and standard.
Look at it.
Cool.
But the bridge itself is the same spacing. Same stud to stud spacing, same string spacing. As far as I mean, we've done a ton of them on both American and on the import line, and they work.
Yeah, the metric part is the actual width of the stud, right?
The metric is the thread.
Yes, that's it.
It's the thread pattern, so it's a metric pitch on the threads that go into the bushings of the guitar.
But on like an Epiphone, that is an actual, for the Tune-O-Matic part, that stud is actually much larger. Because like an ABR,
that I'm not sure of.
The ABR bridges that come on the USA Gibsons, it's just that. That little post.
Right.
But on the Epiphones, it's a screw head.
Those have an actual insert. Yeah.
So
and I think
we'll get there.
I think those are the same things you find on the counterfeit Gibsons.
Oh yeah, the Chinese,
the Chipsons. Or whatever. Yeah, right.
Yes, sir. Because they can't get those parts from here, and if they did, they'd be paying high dollar, and then they're not making money.
Right. They wouldn't be able to sell a Les Paul for $299.
A Peter Green Les Paul.
Right.
You just got to flip the pickup. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, there you go.
I just made a Peter Green.
Costs more now.
So, are you painting these in house? Cool. Are you painting your guitars in house?
Yeah, and it's not my most favorite thing to do, but I'm such a wood guy. We have experimented with some help outside for finish work, but over the course of our history, I would say 90% of the guitars that have my name on them have been done here, other than the PBG stuff, obviously. But
wow,
that's pretty sweet, dude.
Mm-hmm.
We do
really nice
for
stuff.
The solid colors, and it's primarily because it's such a messy job to do sparkles and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do all nitro in house, and because and we have experimented trying to boost production. We've tried to have other people do that kind of work, and it's really tough.
Not to your quality.
What's that?
Not up to your quality standards.
Well, sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's somebody can hijack your income for a matter of months if they have the guitar. It's just really hard. It's really hard if somebody and I've heard even more nightmare stories of other people who send stuff out and they're eating beans and rice because a guitar that's going to give their family $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000 is stuck in again, it's like a $400 or $500 job, slowing down their entire income.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now,
it's a tough one.
Being in California, I don't even know how you can paint with nitro.
We don't use that much of it. I think they go by. I honestly don't know.
By the volume.
Yeah. I mean, we're very small.
Well, you're
small
not painting.
shop, so
You're not painting
not,
a car,
right?
And
and I think
when you do get the
about
guitars,
how much you use and how much you go through.
Yeah.
Now, just to give the listeners the idea what a builder of your stature is, how many are going out the door per week?
It totally depends.
Yeah.
Last week we finished 3.
There you
go.
The
week before that we finished none.
So you can see that it's not. He's. You get one of these.
We'll do 1 or 2 this week.
That's cool.
It just totally depends. It depends on how the production run is going.
Yeah.
At the moment we just took an order from probably about a month ago from Rebel Guitars, and we're able to batch because they're all basically the same guitars, and that's been incredible. We're doing a bunch of GI guitars for them, which is really fun.
The GI guitar's cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I had to bring it up here.
So it's nice to be able to, because if you're building onesie twosie stuff, it's just so difficult to get any economy of scale. You can't. When we can build 6 at a time, it's incredible how But what that does is where you want to have like 2 or 3 going out in a week, you may have none, and then you have 3 or 4 in the following week.
Right.
That's just the way it goes.
Oh yeah.
Those are cool, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it has this whole military theme. So, like, if you look at the knobs, they look like old radio knobs.
They are old radio knobs,
well,
actually.
There you go.
They're genuine.
And you do all this, like, aging to the thing, but you're not, like, really distressing it too much, are you?
No, it's basically like, I just can't bring myself to beat up, wood.
A perfectly good guitar.
You spend all this time to make the wood perfect. So
right.
The GI guitars, there's very, very little
relicking.
Quote unquote relicking.
Yeah.
The one that the mandolin scale guitar I built, the GI built for Zach Brown, had a bit more. It didn't have any dings or anything, but what I did was I finished and refinished the back of it as though it were an old gun.
Oh wow!
And so I left. It wasn't so much putting dents in the wood; it was basically wearing away where,
Yeah.
Like
getting back down to the open grain again and stuff.
Yeah, and those were all open grain mahogany on the backs.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Wow.
So that one was
cool.
And people, that one was really a neat little guitar because it's a mandolin scale, and
I look at it this way: is like Fender and even Gibson, they offer these relic out of the factory $5,000 guitars. I believe that when the character comes from when you're doing it.
Yeah.
So it's going to take you 3 years. Who cares?
Right.
You just gig with the thing. You don't treat it like crap. You just use it.
Right. You just use it. Right. I don't want to pay somebody to
all the wear and
beat
the
up
tear.
my guitar.
Yeah, all the wear and tear just comes naturally.
Right.
And then it looks more authentic. But everybody wanted to have that Stevie Ray Vaughan, number one thing.
Number one, yeah.
Where, his pick was literally just carving the top of the guitar, as he was playing. That's all fine and dandy, but when you actually do it yourself, you'd be surprised because you'll look at it and go, my hand rides there or my forearm rides in that. You don't realize it until you start seeing those wear marks.
It's going to be marked where your playing style marks it. Or
that's the best ones,
or your belt buckle, or the floor that it happened to hit, or whatever.
Exactly.
You got a story behind the battle scars.
And 9 times out of 10, with when you wear it off, like on a nitro finish or something like that, unlike the relic, where it's rough because they hit it like it's actually smooth because your skin is like the ultimate sandpaper.
Right.
So you just over hours and hours and hours, that thing starts to puff up.
It's like pebbles in the ocean.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I have a theory about. I love certain, like what I think Dennis Fano's guitars that he did personally, in particular. Gene did an amazing job on all the ones that they did, and made him. I remember the first time I ever saw Fano, my jaw hit the floor. I was shocked at how realistic it looked and how comfortable that guitar was. And some guys, have just gotten it right. And my whole philosophy on that, and I've only done a couple of relics. I did, a couple of distressed TLs because something about a, beat up Telecaster style guitar just seems right.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I don't do a whole lot of that at all. But I can talk about the whole philosophy of the GIs. But my whole thing is I love old workbenches, and it's the same kind of thing. I want to see the habits of that old guy who was sitting at that workbench, and this is where he put the carburetor, and this is where the oil spilled over and over again, and this is where
gas ran out.
This is where he kept his wrench, and it clicked and hit every time. I mean, that's what I like to see on a guitar, a Relic guitar, is not, okay, there's the arm wear there, and there's the pick wear. It's like, okay, I can tell what chords that guy predominantly played.
Right.
I can tell where the guy had long fingernails and he rolled his volume up. Those are the kind of things where you can see like those idiosyncrasies of the player that, to me, get me excited about a Relic.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And, it just Relic your own guitar,
Oh,
Just,
yeah. Put on a big belt buckle. And
that's it, Play it long, play it hard, and
exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, the more you play it, the better it sounds too. So, it's with any stringed instrument, I find.
Now, being a builder like you are, you obviously built your workbench, right?
I have tons of them. Yeah.
And
we've got them all over the place. Yeah.
So you have that. You have that one that you probably do all your stuff that's been around the longest.
My clean bench is actually I took from because I don't know if you know, but my shop I bought from actually an older. There was a family that lived in Reading that the old guy passed away while the properties were listed, and what they did was they built. They had a vending machine business, and so he had his little place where he had an old garage where he had all of his spare parts, and then he had probably 40 or 50 vending machines in my shop as it sits. And so I inherited a bunch of the benches and kind of reused and rebuilt and repurposed those. So the benches I'm using are probably 50 years older than me.
That's cool.
This guy's dad started the business, and so I love old stuff.
Yeah.
There's something. I mean, I do have a bunch of them that I built out of 2x4s and plywood, but those don't excite me as much as the old ones.
The old ones have mojo.
Yeah.
Made at a beach. It's just heavy, dense. It's like literally 100 years old now.
Yeah.
And it was a 50-year-old tree then.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome.
That is very cool stuff, man.
The hardware line keeps growing, I'm sure. Do you just sell direct? Do you have any plans of putting the hardware out there for sale in some brick and mortar?
We are working on that as we speak. We do have a bunch of pending orders. We've got a handful of dealers who are selling them, and repair guys who are picking them up. And it's been just a push in the last couple of months, actually. Elizabeth's just, it's one of those things. Some people will sell a bunch of stuff before they get built, and we want to do it the opposite. So we got all of our production figured out first.
Nice.
That's cool.
And once that was done, then we started to sell, because we did not want to be in a position of being back ordered or not available. We've been in that boat before on the guitar side and the production side. It's not fun.
Yeah,
and
so you can be a little back ordered, but you can't get to the point where I can't give you product for 6 months.
That's just super stressful. So we are, we have product on the shelves, and Elizabeth is just now taking on dealers. We definitely have, interest in, we want to sell to builders who want to use our stuff. We want to sell to guys who want to retrofit, and, that's kind of where we are. And
cool.
So she's handling all that, and has all those contacts. And we, Roger Giffen just put a couple on his guitars, and we have, a couple other the builders that you would definitely know who have plans to use them in the future.
Nice.
Some big names, big names, small builders.
Nice.
So, and then we'll go from there, and we really feel like it's a tough one to break into. It's tough to get people to really understand the benefits of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the studs are, you know, ultimately, I think that there's a huge benefit to having those on all kinds of guitars. Any 2-post guitar, if people start using these and actually have to adjust them, and
believe me,
I just think they're a huge benefit. And I would love it if a big name would actually, you know, try them out. And I just think that they are a superior part and more robust than what's out there.
Sure.
And you know, we have a bunch of other stuff too that's really exciting that's coming out that are other pieces and parts, so that eventually, I would say within a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, the only parts, for example, on my guitars that I am not going to have built are electronic components and pickups. And, you know, who knows down the road. But
so you're coming out with tuners?
Tuners are in the works.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just exciting. I mean, there's so many opportunities to make stuff better.
Sure.
And if I can't make it better, I'm going to make it prettier.
Well, that in some regards makes it better.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. It makes life better, you know.
Right.
Now, I want to ask you one question here before we finally wrap up. But say I'm a guy, and I've got my lump of cash, and I want to come talk to you about building a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your limits? Like, if I wanted like a 15-inch radius, will you build that?
I don't have. I do all kinds of radiuses and scalings, so there's not a big deal. I think that the limits for me at this point are I have to determine with a client, is this something that is this a good fit for you and I to work together? You know, it's like like I said, I've had some really strange ones come to me, like where they want me to redesign or make something that they drew or like different pieces. And if I look at a project and go, yeah, that might make sense, but I don't know if that's, I will generally refer that to one of my other buddies who may do that kind of thing, or try to help them get into the right hands if it's not my thing. Gotcha. Most of the time, the projects that we take on in terms of customs are the ones where they say, I saw your guitar that got reviewed at Vintage Guitar Magazine. Can you do that in maple? Or can you do that with a baritone scale? Can you do, those are the ones that, or, I want a radial lane. I want it with this type of wood. Here's a budget. Go to town and dazzle me. Those are my favorite ones.
Nice.
And that's another really cool part of it is I tend not to be the guy that's like gets a spec list and, this is exactly what I want. I'd like to have a little bit of artistic
wiggle room,
creative
that's cool.
Wiggle room and freedom, and then bouncing ideas off a guy. And the more receptive he is, the better the guitar will usually come out. Because I'm not I'm not doing stuff that's way off the deep end. I'm doing stuff that's like creative but subtle.
Yeah, and you may suggest something to him that he didn't think of, and may make it a better build for you, a better guitar for him, and so you're right. Working with the customer is probably paramount. First.
And at this point, I mean that's more important than anything.
Yeah,
is working with people that I want to work with, because I've had every builder has nightmare stories about working with difficult clients. I don't have any interest in doing that. It's just you're in bed with someone for so long that it's just really tough to work with people. Because there was a period of time where there were a lot of guys that were builders were getting beat up. It's tough and it's just not fun. I've had so many guys who are like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, it's like
getting raked over the coals. And
the worst thing I would ever do is I'd say take off some knobs.
Take off some knobs.
I really don't use those.
I have a guy
two.
right now who says he just wants to be able to plug it in. I don't even want a volume control. It's like, really?
That's crazy.
Okay.
I would
hide one somewhere? Just
but I do want a kill switch.
Yeah, I know, man.
I've never really used a tone knob. I know you can. I just never had that. I've never had that it's never really been my thing. And when I talk to guys, they're like, well, we don't do that. And it's like, I don't want you to drill an extra hole.
Right.
How does that not? How is that impossible?
Right.
I totally get that. I mean, because you do get tone control with your volume,
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
I
mean, I always go out well-intentioned, with the best of intentions, going, I really am going to play with my tone controllers tonight and try to just coax a little more out of this or a little more out of that.
Never happens.
And I'm going to work the volume controls and everything. And, if it's a good night, I'm working the volume controls. I've never gotten to the point yet where I'm just finessing the tone controls, unless I just want to do something really like, woman tone real quick.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Just 0 or 10.
Well, or 1 or 2, even that, it takes a little bit of tweaking and thinking. But yeah, I go out all well intentioned. Just mostly classic stuff, and I'll play with a good friend of mine, Rob Fahey, who we go out and do most of his original stuff, and
right.
I'm not a metal guy or any
that would be me
or anything close, and not a jazz guy,
Right.
Rock, classic, blues. I try to throw in a little off-color note every now and then just to make people think I screwed up, But,
just play it twice.
See, there you go. That's the rule.
We will have the link to his website in
perpetuity.
That's right. On the show, even when it goes into the archives, you got to check out Schroeder Guitars, because not only does he do all the cool little things and the way the guitars are put together and everything, but like the control covers are made out of like the craziest woods you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's sometimes there's inlay on the back of the guitar, like a little thing there. Yeah, he does, just those little things that kind of make you go, wow, that's pretty cool, So you got to go out here.
For sure.
You will be there for an hour just going through the pictures.
I want that. No, I want that.
Yeah, well,
no, wait, I want that.
And it's also like, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You look at the headstock and you're going, I don't know how in the world he ever did that I'm showing Jeff right now.
That's pretty darn cool.
Yeah. What is it? It looks like it's mother of pearl or something. It's called the faded blue double cut. Jason,
okay.
Is that wood? Those inlays on the headstock like that?
I'm not sure which one you're looking at, but we do wood plates. So we have a couple of different ones. Like on the Tedesco headstock, we do which was designed for Lindsey Buckingham when I did that one. So it was like wood plates bound and then inset into the headstock, and then I think the one you're talking about had shell purfling. So it's just like a line all the way around the outside of the headstock?
No, it's actually like...
it's like an inverted V almost
in
black, and then it looks like maybe the truss cover is over that. So it's...
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Is it
it's
the
beautiful.
gold top?
It's beautiful.
I'm sorry, say again?
Which guitar is it?
It's called the Faded Blue Double Cut. It's on the guitars link there. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure our listeners will find it.
Yeah, well, it's a great podcast here. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just looking at this thing and I'm going, good God,
Yeah.
where did you, how?
Yeah, we do. Headstocks are just an opportunity for great designs. People just kind of, let's throw some tuners on it and be done. I think it's another great opportunity to do something cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
You're getting that.
It's another surface to be artistic with.
When you look at it and then you see, what you're getting, you understand that when there's 2 or 3 going out the door
right
every other week,
this is why. Yeah.
This is why. And when
be thankful you got one.
Yeah,
right.
Because it's literally you got guitars that are high end but there's 37 a day going out the door or whatever it is, and there's a lot of attention paid to those.
Absolutely.
The detail is definitely there. When you go up to this level, it's a whole nother ball game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just one of those things. I mean, I don't have a ton of interest in building 1,000 a year of exactly the same thing. I mean, eventually it might be a kind of a necessary evil. But I love the fact that when a guy gets his guitar, that there's really nothing else in the world that's identical to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of a fun thing for me. Like as an owner, I think that's the kind of guy like some guys want to be part of a club and want to be like, I want that exact guitar that my whoever has.
Yeah.
My typical client is like, I want something that is different, that represents who I am as a builder and who they are as a player. And that collaboration is when the best stuff happens.
Perfect.
It takes that unique side of even songwriting and just moves it to this physical object.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you have this thing that nobody else has, now you're even more individual and more unique.
Yeah.
And the
and hopefully it inspires you, right?
Exactly. Just like just like your East amp will.
Yeah.
You hook in the old Schroeder guitar, and you now have this heartbeat that nobody else has.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's a big deal.
That's what all our listeners should have.
Exactly.
I agree.
For sure. Well, Jason, thank you so much for coming back on with us, and I'm glad things are moving forward so well. And good luck with the whole the hardware line. It looks awesome. I'm sure it sounds way better than it looks.
It's going to be cool.
Much continued success, my friend.
Hey, thank you. You too.
Yeah, thanks. I hope so.
Great job on the podcast. What do you got? What number is this one now?
This will be 102.
I think.
Yeah,
wow.
102, man.
Yeah, just past 100.
We almost went 2 years with you.
Wow.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, we're coming
January,
up. January 1, we're coming up on
4
2
yards since then. So woohoo!
It's all
a
good,
slow
man.
game, slow burn.
It's all good.
Yeah,
It's all good.
All
Well, keep
right.
burning forward, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, Jason. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the evening.
Okay, you too, guys.
Take care. Well, and there you have the recurring story.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah. Such a good guy, man.
Yeah.
And he's
and just so artistic.
Yes.
He's not just a guitar builder that's kind of doing the, whatever you would call it, hand build, that thing. He does these little really cool artistic things inside there that not necessarily, don't do anything for the tone or anything, but it just gives it this unique look that you're like, well, this is the only one that exists.
I mean, even the hardware, it has its own
own flair.
Look. Yeah, and it's pretty. I like it. It's not different just for the sake of being different, but not aesthetically pleasing. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Nice lines. I enjoy it.
That whole stop tail thing with either the wraparound, or the standard stop tail. Stop tail bridge is like, there was probably a half an hour worth of thought that actually went into the original one. I mean, it's nothing to it, right?
Yeah.
It's just a straight bar. It's got 2 slots cut in it, and good day.
And good day and good luck playing with anything but yourself.
Yes, exactly. This thing has this little flair to it. It's very subtle, but it is so cool.
Yeah, no, it's
and when
really
he cuts
pretty
the grooves in that thing, so I can do the top wrap, you're gonna see one on my guitar, because I'm telling you, it's just, he takes this thing, and then with the locking studs, I'm telling you, I don't care what anybody says, there was such a tonal difference.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, this guitar just came alive.
I may have to do a little Les Paul experimentation here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
It is a difference, and screw all you guys that say it isn't, because I'm telling you, I've had them, and it makes a big difference. Here's what I did. I burned 2 sets of strings when I bought the things, right?
Okay.
And I actually tried it with it, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, maybe it's just my ear. So I quickly changed it out and put the other ones in, and I was like, there's a big difference.
Wow.
And people that don't play guitar heard the difference.
Wow.
So there you go.
Testimony enough. There you go.
Yeah.
Mick Stesso.
What am I?
You're Mick Marcelino.
That's right. And you?
I'm still Jeff Bober.
And we are always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage ampsandaxescast.com. Thanks for listening.